Welcome to Extraterrestrial Reality. Today we're going to be talking about critical thinking skills and the fact that there are a lot of people out there who are unable to accept the reality that there's a non-human intelligent presence on Earth because they lack critical thinking skills. That's what we're going to talk about here today. I've known for a long time, right? I've known long before I started this program, this podcast, long before that there was an extraterrestrial, non-human intelligent presence here on this planet because I had my own personal experiences. And then I did research and I studied this phenomenon for decades, for a long time, right? Since the late 1980s, early 90s, I've been studying this. I've had my own experiences. I encountered one of these creatures with my own eyes. I saw one. I encountered one, right? There was one in my bedroom when I was a kid. And then years later, in the mid 1990s, I had an encounter with a UFO in the middle of nowhere, along with another witness, right? So I know that there was something here because just based on that. And then, of course, you do the research and you find out there's tens of thousands, millions of other people that have had not only UFO sightings, but encounters with these alien creatures, right? The occupants of these UFOs. And then you read about other things, about cattle mutilation, about abductions, about alien implants. There's just so many different things. The cover-up that's been going on since 1947 at least, right? Starting with Roswell. You find out, if you do enough research on the Roswell incident, you find out that the Air Force has been lying about this for decades, right? Well, actually, there was no Air Force in place yet when it started. It was the Army Air Force, right? But the United States Pentagon back in 1947 was lying about this. And then when the Air Force was established later on, it's been lying about it ever since. At the 50-year anniversary, the Air Force released a book where they tried to tell called Roswell Incident Case Closed, something like that. They wanted to tell the world that what people really saw out there weren't aliens. They were crash test dummies that were dropped from incredible heights for some sort of a test, but those tests didn't happen until later on, from 1953 to 1959, in another part of the world, by the way, in another part of the United States, not in the Roswell, New Mexico area. So you find all these things out and you realize, yeah, there's a cover-up. There's most certainly an alien presence. There's just way too many people have talked about their own experiences. Way too many people have stepped out of the shadows who know that the government's covering this up. You have people right now going to hearings in Congress talking about things under oath about what they've experienced, what they saw, the fact that there's a cover-up. There's just so many different people right now to this point. When you look at all of the evidence built up to this point, you know, right, that there's something here. But yet there are a lot of people, and here's the problem. These people, even when the evidence is shown to them, they still can't accept it. They don't want to believe it, right? And they act like your average debunker, a lot of these people. They have no critical thinking skills for themselves. They let the debunkers, like these leading debunkers, think for them, right? Apparently, that's the only thing I could think of. But obviously they can't think for themselves. They can't figure things out themselves. They just go immediately to calling people names and, you're crazy, you're stupid, and so on and so forth, right? Now, I'm doing something very similar, except I'm presenting the evidence and then calling these people stupid before they even get a chance to call me stupid and crazy, right? They're already stupid and dumb, right? Because they have no critical thinking skills, and I like to make fun of them every chance I get. Because, all these years, you watch a lot of the documentaries over your lifetime, starting in the 80s, late 80s, 90s, somewhere around there. I start watching documentaries and you see a lot of these debunkers' faces. Some of them aren't with us anymore. Like, for instance, Philip Klass, Joe Nickel, he passed away recently, from what I understand, among others, right? You see these sanctimonious, holier than thou. They think they know everything, telling you that, oh, there's no evidence, even though you hear the whole story. There's there's marks on the ground from when these craft landed. There's vegetation is burned. There's numerous witnesses to certain cases, but yet these idiots for years are trying to tell people that there's no evidence, that this doesn't mean that it's proof, right? And then you have cases like the Ariel school incident in 1994. How could it be denied when you have over 60 school children in elementary school yet in Zimbabwe who in broad daylight see a flying saucer land near the school while they're out on a recess, and then they also see little alien beings, and some of these little kids are communicate with one of these beings telepathically. Like, there's no wiggling out of these stories. They're true. They really did happen. There's no disproving it, right? But even more so now that we have this Las Vegas case right here, right? And all of the that when you look at the totality of the evidence with relation to that case, it shows us there's no question that there's no getting out of this. There's no wiggling out of this anymore. Not only do we have 911 call, not only do we have multiple different videos of showing a video of an object falling from the sky that NASA tried to tell everyone was a meteor, but it's not a meteor. It could not have been because it made sounds like unlike a meteor. It also did not have a heat signature, right? There was a lot of anomalous qualities to this object that came down from the sky, but regardless if it had anomalous qualities or not, the object came down in someone's backyard. And when it came down in that backyard, the Kenmore family's backyard, and just before midnight, April 30th of 2023, it made an impact sound, right? There was a sound that the witnesses said that they heard, and then the thing became invisible. And then they heard thousands of footsteps going off in all different directions, right? So we have and they called 911 eventually, right? Because they said there were aliens in their backyard. By the time the police showed up over an hour later, the aliens were gone. I've laid this story out numerous times. I showed all the different elements that comprise the evidence, but yet there are some people out there who lack critical thinking skills, who can't put the pieces together for themselves, even though you could lay it out for them as best you can, but it doesn't seem to matter for them. So either, like I've said many times before, they're either lying or stupid, right? And even before this incident, like I used to say with regards to debunkers, that at some point, like I always knew that if this was a game of poker, I always knew that I was holding a royal flush in my hands, and whatever they had was a 7 high at best. That's about it. They're going to lose. They're going to lose this game if it's a game of poker. They've already lost. I already knew it in my mind because I had my own experiences. But now when you have this kind of evidence to back up, the stuff that you're talking about all the time, it's embarrassing for any of these people to even try to debunk it anymore. What's the point? You look like a fool. You look like an idiot. You're just making a fool out of yourself. And that brings us to a new episode of what I like to call the black hole that's really stupid. There was some guy who commented just recently, but it was on an older show. It was on the 2-year anniversary of the Vegas incident episode that I did back in, I guess it was in early May of this year. And this guy commented on it because he didn't like what it was there, right? But here's the thing with these people, right? They comment on it. They tell you they think you're crazy, right? But they don't provide ever any sort of analysis. To try to refute it, to try to tell me why I'm crazy when it comes to this. Okay, you show me. You tell me where I'm wrong on this. I want to know, right? Because, we had experts, a crime scene reconstruction expert named Scott Roeder, look at that video, along with people who are members of his team, including a guy named Louis Castillo, who at the time when he looked at this was studying for his doctorate in computer animation. And they made the determination that video, that 1 minute and 41 second long cell phone footage that was filmed by the Kenmore family around midnight on May 1st, 2023, before they called 911, that it was authentic. There was no CGI added to it, and what was in that video were NHI beings, non-human intelligent beings. They confirmed this. You have experts, video experts, confirming that yes, there was something in that video, right? And you could tell by the way these people were acting in the video that there was something going on. So we find aliens in the video, and you study the video more closer, right? And you find more aliens in it. There's more. I've been showing them on this channel all the time. But yet there are still people out there that even when you present this kind of evidence, they do not have the critical thinking skills it takes to understand, to put it all together. They just can't do it. They're incapable of it. It's either that or they're lying. I don't know which one it is. It's up to you out there to figure it out. I don't know. It's either stupid or lying, like I always say. But we do have the royal flush. We're the ones holding the royal flush. Those dummies have nothing in their hand. They're holding nothing. They're bluffing. They got nothing anymore. Now it's beyond bluffing. Now we have it's like saying that the French didn't give us the Statue of Liberty. It's saying George Washington wasn't the first president of the United States. That's how stupid it sounds to me when they say that you don't have the evidence, because we do have it, and this proves it. It proves it. If this was to go to a court of law, right, the jury would determine that this video showed that there were aliens in the backyard. The totality of all of the evidence would show that we're not alone. There's a non-human intelligent presence on Earth. There's no question at this point, based on all of the evidence now that we have, just based on that case. Just on the Vegas case is the one that proves it. It would be, you'd be able to go to a court of law. Like, for instance, I've talked about this before. Say the district attorney in Las Vegas decided to press charges against the family for making a 911 call that they believe was phony. Right? It would go to court, and the Las Vegas would lose this case, because you would have experts like Scott Roeder stepping up, telling them, yeah, this really happened. You would have the police officers going on the stand saying, yeah, they seem like they were really scared. You would listen to the jury would hear the 911 call and say, yeah, there's something, you could tell that doesn't sound like they're faking to me, right? And then you would have experts telling that this video is real and that there are entities in it. So I don't see, like, I was accused by a person recently saying that I don't have critical thinking skills. I went through this whole case. This person doesn't. It's that person. They always telling on themselves. It's projection. That's what it is. They have nothing, so this is what they do. So unfortunately for this guy, I'm sending him off to the black hole that's really stupid, because that's where he belongs. It's this new little program I got going. Here, check it out. Welcome to another installment of the black hole that's really stupid. We have a new tenant for the black hole, and this tenant goes by the handle of Common Conkai 5666. He had the audacity recently to comment on one of my Las Vegas alien videos saying, you guys really need to learn what the word, quote, proof, end quote, means. And I responded to him saying, you need to learn what the phrase critical thinking skills means. But Common Conkai 5666 wasn't finished there. He had to provide one more idiotic comment to really show us how dumb he is. He wrote, tell it to the mirror. I talk to crazy people like you a lot, and it's always the same. When they run out of arguments, they say the same shit. Oh, what about critical thinking? You tell me, what about it? What part of this garbage is critical thinking? What part of this fantasy fits the definition? Do you know the definition, or just throw it in to look smart? Because if it is the second option, you should stop. It is doing the opposite. Well, as everyone can plainly see here, this guy's really stupid, because he has no idea who I am and the kinds of critical thinking skills I actually possess. So with that in mind, it's time to send this goofball off to the black hole that's really stupid forever. So there you go. Very, very sad, but we have to say goodbye to this guy, clown. You need to make examples of these people sometimes, right? But there was one more response that I did provide, and this is what I wrote to the guy. I said, the only thing dumb people can do is call other people names when they are incapable of coming up with excuses to explain something they don't want to believe. So instead, they call people crazy, because that's all they got. You lost this argument before you even started. Where's your analysis to refute anything presented here? You don't have one. All you have is name-calling. It's always been like this with you idiots. You present yourselves as some holier-than-thou sanctimonious creep know-it-alls, but all you have to offer are insults and idiocy. No true debunk, that's impossible, so you go right to the personal attacks. You are too mindless to generate any sort of response that will hold water, and you know deep down that if you tried, it would get torn to shreds and all of its faults would be immediately exposed and laughed at. So your type bypasses that part and goes straight to the only thing that will make you feel good about yourself. Attack the character of the person who has a message that you don't want to accept. And that, unfortunately, was the sad story of Common Conkai 5666. He doesn't like the message. I don't know. He seems to be the sort that probably spends a living on UFO Reddit, and every time he says something mean or rotten about Lou Elizondo, he probably gets 1,500 bot votes and up votes from bots and from sock puppet debunkers, among a bunch of other idiots just like him. He's probably used to getting a bunch of fanfare on UFO Reddit where they make fun of these kinds of things, because they're all stupid, most of them, right? So that's probably what it is. And he's not going to get it. These kind of comments aren't going to work here on my channel, I'm sorry to tell you. And because you sound too stupid, I'm doing you a favor by sending you off to the black hole that's really stupid, because you're just making a fool out of yourself, buddy. So that's just how it is. And too bad. I mean, but anyway, I want to talk about this because I think it's important. Let's talk about critical thinking skills, okay? Uh, this is some information I dug up off the internet today. I put it together. Here's what I come up with. It says critical thinking skills are the abilities used to objectively and systematically analyze information to form a reasoned judgment. These skills go beyond simply recalling facts, requiring an intellectually disciplined process to evaluate evidence, identify biases, and solve problems effectively. Now, I just want to talk about this. I do have a bias, right? But, I always, when I'm talking about these things, if there's something I'm not sure about, I make it clear. Like for instance, even with the Compton alien, which was a pretty big story, a lot of people were talking about it this year. There were people who said they debunked it 100%, like the Corridor crew. I showed how that's impossible. That they did not debunk it. They didn't even come close, right? They were just they don't have any respect for the people for their audience. They just throwing anything out there that they whatever they thought of, right? They didn't debunk it, and I showed that no, they did not debunk it. But I also made it clear that hey, there's always a small chance that it could be something else. That Compton alien, maybe it wasn't an alien that was walking next to the house. Maybe it was some kid dressed up in a suit. I don't think that's the case, but I had to give it that small percentage of a chance, right? And if there's something I think is phony or a hoax, I always call it out. If there's not enough evidence for something, you have to say it. I always do that. None of these debunkers, they'll never see. That's the thing. There's a difference. There's a difference. You ever notice they don't ever do that. If there's some information that goes against their hypothesis, then they don't talk about that information. They won't tell you. They won't tell the people because they don't have any respect for their audiences whatsoever. They think they're a bunch of idiots. That's what they think. Mick West thinks the people. I'm certain he thinks the people that follow him. He thinks that they're all stupid. He doesn't have any respect for their mentality. And that's my opinion. I just want to point that out. It's my opinion, but that's how I see it because he doesn't. If he did, then he would have told the truth about what's been going on with the Las Vegas case. He said it was raccoons, shadows, and coyotes, right? That's what he tried to tell people after a few months after it happened. He went on Inside Edition, and that was his comment, and that the object that came down from the sky was a meteor. That was he didn't do any research. He just sat there in his chair and just thought of that in 5 seconds and then provided that information in Inside Edition. There was no analysis. There was no investigation. He did nothing like what we did. He did nothing to try to come up with a legitimate analysis that refutes any of the stuff that Scott Roeder and others have been putting forward. He did nothing. In fact, he turned it down and offered to do so. $5,000 was offered to him from Scott Roeder, and he turned it down. And no debunker. They'll never be able to debunk it. It's impossible because it really happened. Like I said, it's the same thing as, it's a fact. It's like the moon is in the sky. That's a fact. Just like this case is a fact. There's non-human intelligence creatures that showed up that night, and we have them captured on video. We can see their faces. It's a fact. Right. But that's why they want to talk. They don't want to talk about it. Right. They can't say anything about it because they know that if they do, anything they say is going to be thrown back in their face and they're going to be looking like more of a fool than they already do. Mick West had no idea when he was talking about raccoons and coyotes. He had no idea that more information was going to come out of that case, or he never would have been as stupid to say something like that. But he was. Right. I think that he does have critical thinking skills, and I think that he knows what he's doing, and I think that he knows what that evidence represents. But I don't think he doesn't want to go there because then that turns his whole shtick upside down. Everything he's been talking about for all these years means nothing. Then he's been wrong. He doesn't want to tell everyone that he was wrong. Ego. What else is there? And then you have all these other people, like this poor guy who I just had to send off to the black hole. That's really stupid. Who just can't accept it. They just can't believe it. You showed them the information. The video that he was commenting on was one where I laid it all out, where I had all of the prevalent facts in there. It wasn't enough for him. He doesn't see it as proof. He doesn't want to accept it. So you're crazy. That's what he has to. That's all he got. He got nothing else. No critical thinking skills. Biased. He let his bias get the best of him. But anyway, let's go through this here. Key critical thinking skills include analysis, the ability to break down complex information or a problem into smaller parts, examine them carefully, and understand how they interrelate. Evaluation, assessing the credibility, relevance, and quality of evidence and arguments to determine their validity and strength. See, like right there, when it comes to that Vegas case, these are the kinds of things that were done. It took me over a year. It took almost or close to a year before we were, and Scott Roeder, before we were able to conclude that this event really did happen. There's no going. You can't say it didn't anymore. You can't say it's up in the air anymore. We were able to prove, right? We were able to prove that it really did happen, and he was so confident. He said still no one to this point has ever tried to refute his findings. And that he came up with this 19 months ago. Actually, it was April 2nd of 2024 when that determination was made. We're able to say it took all that time till we were finally able to say that this really did happen, and here's the proof, right? And after that, we found more proof, more evidence of aliens in that video. Because at first, none of us really knew what we were looking for. I was thinking that, oh, where's the aliens? They said there were 2 tall aliens. I'm not seeing them. I didn't realize, though, that they were phasing in and out of reality the way they were. They had the ability to cloak themselves. I wasn't thinking in those terms. I was thinking of like E.T. the Extraterrestrial walking around plain as day like a lot of other people. It took time to understand what we were looking at. And now we do know. And it took a lot of analysis. It took a lot of evaluations. And that's where we finally got to those conclusions. But see, these debunkers, or like these people, these cowboys that come in out of nowhere and don't know anything about the cases, the first time they're hearing about it, they just can't accept it right away. You're stupid. You're crazy. I don't believe you. That's how they act, because that's all they got, because they have no critical thinking skills. They can't think for themselves. Anyways, what's some of the other ones here? Inference, drawing logical conclusions or making reasoned judgments based on the available facts, evidence, and data. Yes, that all came into play with that case. There's no question about it. You see the way they're acting in the video. You hear the 911 call. You hear the fear. You see the multiple different video captures showing the object coming from the sky. You look at the 1 minute and 41 second long cell phone footage. You see how things were going before they called 911. You see how the cops were acting when they got there. They believed them. You heard after the fact there were police officers that said yes, they believed them. There were no charges filed for any phony 911 calls. You take all of this into account using your critical thinking skills, and it tells you one thing. Like my friend Keith Taylor says, it's like an intelligence test. If you can't see this, then you're flunking the intelligence test. Okay, another one here. Interpretation, comprehending and communicating the meaning of or significance of information from various sources such as data, charts, or written text. Yeah, we interpreted a lot of different information from a lot of different sources, like, for instance, including from the American Meteorological Society, which showed us that there were a lot of people that saw this object, and one person saw the object from falling from the sky from Arizona, saw it falling north from her position, and she contacted the American Meteorological Society to report that after the object went down, there were 2 UFOs that were blinking in and out of view in the area where that object fell for about an hour. So we take all of these things into consideration, and it tells you one story. It all leads into one reality, that there really something happened. All of it. When you put it together, you take all of these different bits of information, you put them together, and it tells you a story. And that story is something really happened in Vegas in 2023. There's no question about it. There's no wiggling out of this one. I'd love to see someone try it. Where's the refutation? Where's the big analysis showing how Scott Roeder, me, and a bunch of other people are wrong about this? I'd love to see it. Come on, where is it? Show us your critical thinking skills. Show us your investigation abilities. Come on, where is it? I've never got it yet. Nothing from anybody. Here's some more here. Observation, the ability to notice and identify key details, problems, or opportunities in a situation or environment. Yep. Problem solving, using a structured approach to identify issues, generate potential solutions, evaluate alternatives, and implement the best course of action. Yeah, that's another thing. We went through all the different scenarios in our minds before reaching this conclusion, trying to think, is there any way that this could have been faked? And no, there was no way this was fake. This was not only was it not faked, it was real, and there was what those people reported really did happen. Communication, clearly and effectively articulating ideas, opinions, and reasoning to others, and actively listening to diverse perspectives. Yes, I'm still doing that. We're still listening to diverse perspectives. There's other people that have other ideas about what might have happened and what might not have happened, but a lot of those people are on the same page, though, with me, right? A lot of those people are on the same page with a lot of people who came to the conclusion that this involved NHI. There's just some other elements of it that we're trying to figure out, like why did it come down? Some people think maybe it was shot at by our military. Some people may think it might have been an issue with the craft itself and he didn't make an emergency landing. There's all different sorts of opinions, and everyone's always trying to work these things out, see them through, and reach a consensus. That's still ongoing. Open-mindedness, this is something that none of these people have. A willingness to consider new ideas and alternative viewpoints, even those that challenge one's own assumptions or beliefs, and to change one's position when presented with sound evidence. Yeah. You put all of this stuff together. Like I said, if we went to a court, a jury would find in favor of the phenomenon being real. There's no question about it. But a lot of these debunkers, they just don't have the ability to open their minds up to this kind of stuff, because they've believed in this for so long that there's nothing to it, that don't want to step across that line. They're just stubborn. They never want to admit that they're wrong. That's one of the issues. It's important for these people to be right. That's what it comes down to. Identification of bias, recognizing personal and external prejudices or influences that could impact objective judgment. Yeah, these people don't do that. They can't identify their own bias. Self-reflection or metacognition, the capacity to monitor one's own thinking processes, actions, and decisions, and to check for biases and errors in reasoning to ensure continuous improvement. Yeah, this is something a lot of debunkers will not do. They just don't do it. There is no self-reflection. You're wrong, they're right, period, over and out. That's how it is for these people. They don't want to consider anything else. Their minds have been made up, and they were made up a long time ago. They're not interested in any new information. They will not consider it. In essence, a critical thinker approaches issues with curiosity, a commitment to truth-seeking, and a systematic method for inquiry, rather than relying on assumptions or blindly accepting information. Yes, that's the sad story of the debunkers and the skeptics and the people who lack critical thinking skills, who are incapable of accepting this reality that we're not alone, even though the evidence is right now in their faces. And when they see it, they still can't accept it. So they call you names. That's all they got. They got nothing else. And so I don't want to listen to them anymore. Don't come to my channel. Don't comment on my channel. Go someplace. Go to UFO Reddit or wherever. Go someplace else and cry about what I'm saying. If you don't like what I'm saying, just get out of here. Don't come here. This ain't for you. Your mind is closed. It's never going to be open. It doesn't matter if I had a dead alien body right here that I let you come to my house to look at and you could see for yourself. You still wouldn't believe it. You made your mind up a long time ago. Just stay away, right? Or I'll just, it's so easy to just click a button and say, remove this user from ever commenting on your channel again. It's not a big problem, right? It takes 2 seconds, right? When I see it, boom, gone. There's a lot of people. It happens. You won't believe some of the comments I get sometimes from some people. Some of them are real nasty, but what are you going to do? I mean, this ain't the forum for them. They can't handle the truth, like Jack Nicholson said in the movie, right? So it's time, if you can't deal with it, I'd like to know, like, what's your life like? I mean, what kind of friends do you have? Do you have any friends? Do these people have any friends without these critical thinking skills where they can't accept reality? I mean, it'd be hard to be hanging around with somebody like this all the time, where they can't, you show them a reality of something and they just say, no, I don't believe that anyway. Like there's people who just are averse to the truth. They hate it. They hate the truth. But hey, I'm about the truth. I want to see the whole world finding out that, hey, guess what? We're not alone here. There's evidence now that shows we're not alone, and it's time to get your heads out of your butts and take it from there. Stop acting like this. I mean, it's not going anywhere for you. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know. Maybe there is hope. I did do some research. If you don't have critical thinking skills, you could develop them, but I'm not sure about some of these people. I'm just not sure about this guy we were talking about earlier. I don't know if it's a chance for him or not. Maybe not. I don't know. That's up to him. I would doubt it, though. I would doubt it. I'm sure right now, if he ever sees this and hears the stuff I'm saying, it's his ego. He's so mad and angry right now. He doesn't know what to do. Right? That's the kind of mentality that you get from a lot of these people. So what are you going to do? Anyway, I just want to say this. I want to say thank you all for joining me today. Until next time.